The Eastern Front, winter 1942. Somewhere along the frozen banks of the Volga River, a German soldier raises his head above a trench. Just for a second, just to scan the horizon. He never sees what kills him. A bullet travels 800 meters in less than 1 second. It enters through his temple. He falls back into the trench without a sound. His comrades stare at the wound, then at each other. "The sniper," someone whispers. "He's out there again." They don't know his name, they don't know his face. They only know what the Soviet soldiers call him: death. This is the story of Vasily Zaitsev, a shepherd from the mountains of Kazakhstan who became the deadliest sniper in the history of warfare. A man who killed 542 confirmed enemy soldiers in just 5 months of combat. A man whose reputation was so terrifying that the Germans sent their best sniper hunter to eliminate him, and failed. But this is not just a story about killing. This is a story about patience, about survival, about the human capacity to remain perfectly still for hours while death searches for him. It is a story about the Battle of Stalingrad, the bloodiest battle in human history, and one man's role in turning it from German victory into German catastrophe. Vasily Zaitsev was born on March 23, 1915, in the village of Lopatka in the Ural Mountains of Kazakhstan. His childhood was spent in the harsh landscape of Central Asian wilderness, mountains, rivers, endless forests. His grandfather taught him to hunt before he could read. By age 10, young Vasily could hit a mountain goat at 300 meters with an iron sight rifle. Hunting in the Urals is not like hunting in European countryside. The terrain is brutal, the weather is savage, the animals are fast, alert, and living at altitude. A successful hunter must understand wind, temperature, distance, animal behavior, and his own body. He must control his breathing, his heartbeat, his position on terrain that offers minimal cover. These skills, learned not in a military classroom, but in the frozen mountains of his childhood, will make Vasily Zaitsev the most dangerous man on the Eastern Front. When World War II begins in 1941, Zaitsev is serving in the Soviet Navy as an ammunition accountant. An accountant. The man who will become history's deadliest sniper spends the first months of the war counting bullets in a warehouse. But the Germans are advancing fast. Soviet forces are retreating. Millions of soldiers are needed. Zaitsev volunteers for infantry combat and is assigned to the 284th Infantry Division as a regular rifleman. He arrives at the front with standard equipment, an SVT-40 semi-automatic rifle. No scope, no special training, just the hunting skills of his childhood and an innate understanding of ballistics that no classroom could teach. In his first weeks of combat, Zaitsev discovers something important. He is extraordinarily good at killing Germans from concealment. Not just good, exceptional. His sense of distance, his understanding of bullet drop and wind drift, his ability to find firing positions that offer both cover and clear sight lines. These are gifts refined by a lifetime of hunting in the most demanding terrain on Earth. By late 1942, his commanders notice. His kill count is climbing faster than any other rifleman in the division. He's not just shooting Germans, he's hunting them, methodically, patiently, perfectly. They give him a proper sniper rifle, a Mosin Nagant Model 1891/30 with a PU 3.5 times scope. The rifle weighs 4.3 kilograms. The scope adds another 300 grams. It fires a 7.62 mm cartridge, effective to 800 meters. In the right hands, it can kill at over 1,000 meters. Vasily Zaitsev's hands are exactly right. September 1942, Stalingrad, the city that will become the graveyard of the German Sixth Army. To understand what Zaitsev accomplished here, you must understand Stalingrad. Not the Hollywood version, sanitized, simplified, reduced to one dramatic battle. The real Stalingrad. The city stretches 25 kilometers along the west bank of the Volga River. It's a long, narrow urban landscape. Factories, apartment blocks, warehouses, railway stations. The Germans have pushed Soviet forces back to a strip of land barely a kilometer wide along the riverbank. The fighting is so close that soldiers on opposite sides can hear each other talking. This is not a war of tanks and artillery. This is a war of rats. Men fight in basements, in sewers, in collapsed buildings. They throw grenades around corners. They shoot each other through walls. They stab each other with knives in darkened rooms. And in this hell, snipers are gods. A sniper controls territory. He makes the enemy afraid to move, afraid to show themselves, afraid to do anything that might expose their position. A single sniper can paralyze an entire battalion, keeping them pinned in cover, preventing them from advancing, creating psychological terror that compounds with every confirmed kill. Zaitsev arrives at Stalingrad in November 1942 with the 62nd Army, the Soviet force tasked with holding the city. He's assigned to a sniper unit and begins operating from concealed positions among the ruins. Within days, he's killing Germans. Zaitsev's hunting technique is unlike anything the Germans have encountered. He doesn't shoot randomly. He doesn't fire from one position and stay there. He moves constantly, spending hours crawling through rubble, finding new positions, studying the battlefield from angles the Germans don't expect. He studies his targets before he shoots. He watches them for hours, sometimes days, learning their routines. When do they move? Where do they smoke? Which positions are they careless about exposing themselves? Every human being has habits. Zaitsev identifies those habits and exploits them. A German officer who smokes at 7 a.m. near a particular window, dead at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. A supply runner who crosses a particular street at dusk, dead at dusk on Wednesday. A machine gunner who raises his head above his position to scan for Soviet attack, dead before his scan is complete. Each kill is preceded by hours of observation. Each kill is executed with one shot. Zaitsev almost never fires more than once from any position. One shot and he's gone, melting back into the rubble before the Germans can locate his firing position. The Germans call this the sniper war, and Zaitsev is winning it. By December 1942, Zaitsev has over 150 confirmed kills. His reputation spreads through both armies. Soviet soldiers whisper his name with reverence. German soldiers whisper it with fear. German snipers try to find him. They set up observation posts, send patrols to locate his firing positions, offer rewards for information about where he operates. None of it works. Zaitsev is a ghost, appearing, killing, vanishing. He could be anywhere in the ruins of Stalingrad. He could be watching you right now. The psychological effect is devastating. German units in Zaitsev's sector report increasing reluctance among soldiers to perform any task that requires exposure. Officers stop visiting forward positions because they're afraid of being shot. Supply runners take longer routes, adding hours to their missions, to avoid crossing his likely fields of fire. One German commander writes in his diary, "We are being hunted, not by an army, by one man, and we cannot find him." Soviet command recognizes Zaitsev's value. They promote him. They give him a personal staff, a spotter named Yuri Kurakov, and several assistants. They assign him specific sectors to operate in,
specific targets to prioritize. German officers, artillery commanders, observation post crews. These become Zaitsev's hunting list. And they publicize his kills. Soviet newspapers run stories about the hunter of Stalingrad. Radio broadcasts mention his name. His kill count becomes a symbol of Soviet resistance. Proof that even in the darkest moment, individuals can fight back. January 1943. Zaitsev's kill count passes 200, then 250, then 300. Each kill requires patience that most people cannot comprehend. A sniper at Stalingrad might spend an entire day, dawn to dusk, lying motionless in a concealed position, waiting for a target to appear. The cold is brutal. -30 degrees Celsius. The ground is frozen solid. Exposure means frostbite. Movement means detection. Detection means death. Zaitsev lies in the snow for 12 hours. His body temperature drops. His fingers go numb. His breathing becomes so shallow it's barely perceptible. A thin layer of snow accumulates on his white camouflage suit, making him invisible against the frozen landscape. And he waits. At 14:37, a German soldier appears at a window 600 meters away. He's lighting a cigarette, leaning slightly into the open. The exposure lasts perhaps 3 seconds. Zaitsev fires. The German falls. Zaitsev works the bolt, loads another round, remains motionless, waits for response, return fire, movement, anything that indicates his position has been compromised. Nothing. The Germans don't know where the shot came from. They won't find him. He remains in position for another 4 hours, hoping another target will appear. Eventually, as darkness approaches, he withdraws, crawling backward through the rubble, leaving no tracks, no evidence that anyone was ever there. This is his life, day after day, kill after kill, patient, methodical, deadly. And then the Germans decide to end it. The story of the duel between Vasily Zaitsev and the German super sniper has become one of the most famous and most debated episodes of World War II. It was immortalized in the 2001 film Enemy at the Gates. But the historical truth is more complex, more uncertain, and in some ways, more interesting than the Hollywood version. Here's what we know. By late January 1943, Zaitsev's kills are approaching 300. The German command in Stalingrad is desperate. They're losing the battle. Their Sixth Army is encircled. Supply is failing. Morale is collapsing. And this one Soviet sniper is making their situation worse, psychologically and tactically. They decide to send their best to eliminate him. The identity of this German super sniper is debated by historians. Zaitsev himself claimed it was Major Erwin Koenig, described as the head of a German sniper school. Some historians dispute this identification. Koenig may have been a real person, a composite figure, or a misidentification by Zaitsev after the fact. What's not disputed, a highly skilled German sniper was deployed specifically to hunt Zaitsev. And what happened next is one of the most tense, patient, deadly duels in military history.
The duel, as Zaitsev described it in his memoirs, lasted several days. Both men understood the fundamental rule of sniper warfare. The first one to move carelessly dies. Koenig, or whoever the German sniper was skilled, extremely skilled. He had been hunting Soviet snipers for months. He understood their tactics, their preferred positions, their likely behavior. But Zaitsev understood something Koenig didn't: the terrain. Every piece of rubble, every collapsed wall, every shadow in Stalingrad was familiar to Zaitsev. He had spent months crawling through these ruins. He knew which positions offered clear sightlines to German trenches. He knew which positions were visible from German observation posts. He knew the wind patterns, the light angles, the way sound travelled through the destroyed buildings. Koenig was hunting in unfamiliar territory. Zaitsev was hunting at home. The duel began with observation. Both snipers sent scouts, men who would deliberately expose themselves in controlled positions to draw the enemy sniper's fire. If the scout was shot, the muzzle flash or bullet trajectory could reveal the enemy's position. Koenig used decoys, helmets on sticks, mannequin heads propped in windows. Zaitsev used scouts, brave, terrified men who understood they might die to help locate the German. For 2 days, neither man fired. They watched each other's decoys. They studied each other's patterns. They moved through the ruins like shadows, trying to find a position from which they could see the other without being seen. On the third day, the exact date is uncertain, but Zaitsev places it in late January 1943, the duel reached its conclusion. Zaitsev had identified a likely position for Koenig, a concealed spot beneath a collapsed building, with clear sight lines to several key Soviet positions. The position was well chosen. Good cover, good angles, difficult to spot from the Soviet side. Too good. Zaitsev suspected it was a trap. Koenig might be using the position as bait, waiting for Zaitsev to approach it. So Zaitsev waited. He positioned himself 100 meters from the suspected German position, hidden behind a pile of rubble. He brought a glass bottle, used as a crude mirror to scan without exposing his head. Hours passed. The cold bit into his body. His muscles cramped from holding position. But he didn't move. Then he saw it. A slight glint of metal beneath the collapsed building. Not a weapon. A scope. Koenig was there, looking through his own scope at the very position where Zaitsev would most likely set up. Koenig was waiting for Zaitsev to appear at that position. He had predicted Zaitsev's likely firing spot and was watching it. Zaitsev had predicted Koenig's prediction. He was watching Koenig watch the empty position. For a long moment, two of the deadliest snipers in history looked at each other through their scopes, each knowing the other was there, each waiting for the other to make a mistake. Then Koenig shifted, just slightly, perhaps adjusting his scope, perhaps his arm cramped from the cold, perhaps he grew impatient. Zaitsev fired. The bullet travelled less than 100 meters. It entered Koenig through his scope. The glass shattered, and the round penetrated through the eyepiece and into the man's face. Koenig, or whoever the German super sniper was dead before he could blink. Zaitsev later retrieved Koenig's rifle. It was a fine weapon.
a German Kar-98K with a Zielfeld 4x scope, beautifully maintained. He kept it as a trophy. The rifle is now displayed at the Central Museum of the Great Patriotic War in Moscow. Whether the man Zaitsev killed was truly Major Erwin Koenig, head of the German sniper school, remains debated. Zaitsev identified the body based on documents found in the dead man's position. Some historians accept the identification. Others argue Koenig may have been a different person, or a figure whose identity was exaggerated by Soviet propaganda. What matters historically is not the identity of the dead German. What matters is the psychological effect. Word spread through both armies. The Soviet super sniper had killed the German super sniper. Zaitsev had won the duel. German snipers in Stalingrad became more cautious, more afraid. The psychological advantage shifted further to the Soviet side. February 1943. The Battle of Stalingrad ends. The entire German Sixth Army, over 90,000 soldiers, surrenders. It's the greatest military disaster in German history and a turning point in the war. Throughout the final weeks of the battle, Zaitsev continues hunting. His kill count climbs past 300, past 400. Some accounts place his total confirmed kills at Stalingrad at 515. Others say higher. And then, on February 5, 1943, just days before the German surrender, Zaitsev is wounded. A German artillery shell explodes near his position. The blast shrapnel tears into both of his eyes. He's blinded. He's evacuated to a hospital in Moscow. Doctors examine the damage. Both eyes are severely injured, the corneas shredded by shrapnel fragments. Without surgery, Zaitsev will be permanently blind. A specialist named Dr. Vladimir Filatov, one of the Soviet Union's leading ophthalmologists, performs the surgery. It takes several operations over several weeks. Gradually, sight returns to Zaitsev's eyes. Not perfect, but enough. Enough to see. Enough to live. Enough, eventually, to pick up a rifle again. Though he never fires one in combat again.
When Zaitsev returns to the front after recovery, the strategic situation has changed dramatically. The Soviet Union is on the offensive. The defensive, grinding battles of 1941 and 1942 are giving way to massive counter-offensives. The need for individual snipers, critical during desperate defensive battles, diminishes as Soviet forces advance. Zaitsev is assigned to train other snipers. He develops training programs, writes manuals, teaches the techniques he perfected at Stalingrad. He creates what becomes known as the Zaitsev method, a systematic approach to sniper warfare that emphasizes observation over shooting, patience over aggression, and terrain mastery over raw marksmanship. His students go on to serve throughout the remainder of the war. Some become snipers of exceptional skill themselves. The knowledge Zaitsev accumulated in those 5 brutal months at Stalingrad spreads through the Soviet sniper corps. By the war's end, Soviet snipers, many trained using Zaitsev's methods, have killed an estimated 200,000 plus German soldiers. Zaitsev's contribution to that number extends far beyond his personal 542 kills. Let's examine the number. 542 confirmed kills. This is Zaitsev's official Soviet military record. Confirmed means each kill was verified, either by a second observer who saw the target fall, or by subsequent reconnaissance that confirmed the body. The actual number of Germans Zaitsev killed is almost certainly higher. Many kills went unconfirmed because observation conditions were poor, because the body couldn't be recovered, because the kill happened at extreme range, and verification was impossible. Some estimates place Zaitsev's total kills, confirmed and probable, at over 600. To put 542 in perspective, it means Zaitsev killed, on average, more than 3 Germans per day for 5 months. Every single day. In brutal winter conditions. Under constant threat of death from enemy snipers, artillery, and infantry. It means he fired approximately 542 rounds that hit human targets. An accuracy that suggests he fired perhaps 600 to 650 rounds total, giving him a hit rate of over 80% at ranges of 200 to 800 meters. It means 542 families in Germany received telegrams informing them that their son, brother, husband or father was dead. 542 graves somewhere across the Eastern Front. 542 lives ended by one man with one rifle. The mathematics of death, rendered in a single number. After the war, Zaitsev returns to civilian life. He becomes an engineer working in the textile industry. He lives quietly in Kiev, rarely discussing his wartime experiences publicly. But he doesn't forget. Soviet veterans of Stalingrad carry their experiences forever. The things they saw, the things they did, the people they lost. These memories don't fade with time. They sharpen. Zaitsev suffers from what we would now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder. He has nightmares about Stalingrad. He has difficulty sleeping. He struggles with the transition from wartime violence to peacetime normalcy. He also carries guilt, the particular guilt of a killer who did his killing with extraordinary skill and efficiency. He killed 542 people. Each one was a human being. Each one had a family, a life, hopes and dreams. In interviews given decades after the war, Zaitsev speaks about this honestly. I don't regret what I did. I was fighting to save my country. The Germans invaded us. They were destroying our cities, killing our people. Every German I killed was one who couldn't kill a Soviet soldier or civilian. But I don't celebrate it either. I was a hunter. I hunted men. And that stays with you. The faces. I remember faces. Not all 542, but some. The ones I watched for hours before shooting. The ones whose habits I learned. I knew them in a way, and then I killed them. War does this to people. It makes you good at killing, and then it makes you live with that. Zaitsev dies on March 18, 1987, in Kiev. He is 72 years old. The cause of death is natural, heart failure, the mundane ending to an extraordinary life. For decades after his death, his remains rest in a cemetery in Kiev. But in 2003, Ukrainian authorities relocate his grave to Mamayev Kurgan in Volgograd, the site of the Battle of Stalingrad. now renamed from its wartime name. Mamayev Kurgan is one of the most visited war memorials in Russia. The massive statue of Mother Russia, 68 meters tall, towers over the battlefield where Zaitsev made his name. Tens of thousands of visitors come each year to honor the Soviet dead. Zaitsev's grave sits among them. A simple headstone. His name, his dates, a small plaque noting his role as a sniper at Stalingrad. Most visitors walk past without stopping. They don't know his story. They don't know about the 542 kills, the duel with the German super sniper, the 5 months of patience and death in the frozen ruins. But some visitors stop. Some read the plaque. Some leave flowers. These are the people who understand what happened here. Not just the grand strategic narrative of armies and generals, but the personal, intimate, brutal reality of one man hunting another in the snow. The legacy of Vasily Zaitsev extends beyond his personal kill count. His story represents something larger, the role of the individual soldier in modern warfare. In an age of tanks, artillery, aircraft and eventually nuclear weapons, the individual rifleman seems irrelevant. Wars are won by industrial might, by technological superiority, by the ability to produce more weapons faster than the enemy can destroy them. But at Stalingrad, in the rubble of a destroyed city, individual soldiers made the difference. Soviet riflemen, snipers, machine gunners, grenade throwers, they held the city not through superior technology, but through courage, skill, and refusal to surrender. Zaitsev was the most extreme example of this. One man, one rifle, and extraordinary skill, holding an entire German sector in fear, preserving Soviet morale, and demonstrating that the war could be fought and won at the most personal level. His method of warfare, patient observation, precise shooting, constant movement, influenced Soviet sniper doctrine for generations. The principles he developed at Stalingrad remain relevant today, taught in military academies and sniper schools worldwide. There is one more aspect of Zaitsev's story that deserves attention, the question of whether he was truly the deadliest sniper in history. 542 confirmed kills is an extraordinary number. But is it the highest ever recorded? The answer is complicated. Soviet records from World War II include several snipers with higher confirmed kill counts. Semyon Herhunov, 852 confirmed kills. Ivan Sidorenko, 313 plus confirmed, possibly higher. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, 309 confirmed kills. Notably, she was female, one of only a handful of women to serve as combat snipers in any army. Why then is Zaitsev remembered as the Soviet sniper of the war? Several reasons. First, his story at Stalingrad is uniquely dramatic. The duel with the German super sniper, the psychological warfare, the turning point of the war. Second, Soviet propaganda elevated his story above others during the war. He became a symbol of resistance. Third, the film Enemy at the Gates, 2001, brought his story to a global audience, cementing his fame in popular culture. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, Zaitsev's 542 kills were achieved in just 5 months. That rate of killing, over 3 confirmed kills per day, is unmatched in military history. Other snipers with higher totals achieved them over longer periods. Zaitsev wasn't necessarily the deadliest sniper ever, but he may have been the most efficient. 5 months, 542 kills, a rate of destruction that the Germans could not counter, could not match, and could not survive. So who was Vasily Zaitsev, really? Not the Hollywood hero of Enemy at the Gates, romanticized, simplified, reduced to a love story set against the backdrop of war. Not the Soviet propaganda figure, perfect, selfless, fighting purely for the motherland. He was a man